So today is day 13, lucky 13 of 28 vegans. I started a series called 28 Vegans where I wanted to bring on 28 of my favorite vegan friends, and favorite may not be the right word. I wanted to bring on folks who are influential in my journey, people who have influenced and impacted my journey. I have tried to bring on folks that have meant something to me personally, bring something to this movement that I really appreciate. And so far, I think this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully people have gained some positive information, some positive vibes out of these folks, because, you know, I want to be surrounded by infectious, incredibly, just driven people who want to do good in this world, who want to bring positivity and light. I know that can be hard. I know it's difficult sometimes when things are rough, when you watch the news and you see all the negative stuff in politics, and it's just it can be tough. So personally, I think it's important to surround yourself with people that bring positive vibes and positive energy. Tonight I'm going to be joined by Alec Pedersen. Alec is one of those people who has just such an infectious smile on his face all the time. He's got such a positive flow and vibe about him. He's just one of those good-natured people that you want to be around. The more you talk to Alec, the more you want to be around him. The more you get to know him, the more you want more. And it's like, I feel bad for wanting more, but it's like, I really appreciate what he brings to not just this movement, but to my life, to the world in general, and just his positive outlook. So Alec is going to join us here in just a minute, and I'll bring him in, and then we'll have a conversation, see how his journey started. I think it's so important that we all share our journeys, share our message, whatever that might be. You never know how your journey, your story might impact someone else. You have no idea. There's probably people out there struggling with the same things you're struggling with the same problems, struggling with the same things they can't figure out. So to me, it's important that we all share our stories, because your story can relate to someone else in a way that you don't realize. Maybe someone you've never met. Thanks to social media, we've been able to connect with all kinds of folks from all over the place. I've got folks that follow us and message us regularly from Australia, and it is just incredible, this movement. And, my sound isn't working. Cherie, can someone else verify that you can hear me? So, I think it's infectious the way this movement is working. I'm going to send Alec a request real quick. Bear with me just a second. Hi, Jennifer. Hey, Becky Joe. Hey, what's happening, my friend?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing quite well, and I'm just thankful that I get a chance to talk to you this evening. I really appreciate you carving out some time. So, looks like you're kind of walking around town today, yeah?
Yes, hold on one sec, because it's funny. Where I am, it was totally quiet, and now it's gotten loud.
That's usually how it works. It's like when I'm trying to do something, the kids, they all got to go crazy at one time. The dog's got to start barking. My brother-in-law shows up. So he's
right.
It's just life. You can't plan it all, right?
That's right, man. That's right. Well, how are you doing today?
Doing well. So, I asked you to come on here because, I really appreciate what you bring to my life, what you bring to this movement, and just your positive energy that you bring to everything you do. I think your attitude is infectious, and I think more people should bring this positive role that you bring to so many everywhere you go. And
well, thank you, bro.
You are quite welcome. So, everyone knows how different journeys start. What was it for you that started your journey on this?
Well, it's funny. For me, it was Earthlings. That was what was the seeing that movie changed my life. I saw that movie, and it knocked me out of orbit, and I've never been the same. And so I realized, that film is brutal truth. And for me, seeing that, I couldn't unsee what I saw. So I wanted to make some changes in my life, and I didn't quite know how to do it. I started changing. First, I started changing what what I ate, and I cut out animal products right away. I started then changing what I wore. You know, it's a path, and it's a journey too. I mean, I don't know if you can do everything at once, but for me, it was first the food, then what I wore. Then I started seeking out opportunities to be of service to others, and started visiting different animal sanctuaries, and fell in love with the Gentle Barn and Jay and Ellie, and the mission that they have. And you know, it really was an incredible journey, and it's still going. And you meet people, and when people ask me, you know, what's the best thing about going vegan, or what about going vegan was the most surprising to me, and I guess I feel like when you do that, you attract people into your life that are up to the same thing. They are seeking kindness and compassion. They want to make the world a better place. They're conscious. They watch what they eat. You know, 3 meals a day. They're not eating animal products, and so you attract this family that that you can only get that family by walking the walk, and so then you meet other people and you connect people, and it's just such a beautiful journey. So that's how I got started, and that's how it kind of led me to where I am in this moment.
It is an incredible journey, and I appreciate, you know, I think it's so funny. You look at the people that have set these building blocks. You talked about Earthlings, so we're talking, you know, Sean Munson, another incredible individual who I appreciate what he brings to this movement. It is just infectious to be around people that have the same values and the same view of animals that you do, and view of people and view of the planet. Those things, you know, lots of people come to this journey, I think, for one of 3 reasons: for the animals, for their health, or for the planet. And then as you get into this, you realize it's all related. You know, how you treat animals and how you treat people, that's how the planet is going to be treated. And you look at all things kind and compassionate in your life, to where, you know, I grew up and I felt, growing up in the Midwest as a hunter, a lot of that compassion is ground out of you. And then it's almost compartmentalized, that it's okay to be kind to dogs and cats, but I'm going to go hunt deer, I'm going to go hunt groundhogs and coyotes and everything else. So it's very difficult sometimes to break that mold, to break that absolute struggle that people have taught you for so long to look at things differently. Looks like Alec may be on pause there, but I'll keep talking a second. So, you know, when you meet people that are happy and infectious and positive, the more friends, we lost Alec. So that's one of those things that happens. It's called technology, and you do what you can do. So hopefully he'll jump back on here. So what's going on, Adam? I see Adam's on, Rodney, Jennifer. I think Jay was on somewhere. Adam, do you know that? Like, you with him? I wish I had the ability to, so this live feed will be able to be played back for the next 24 hours, which is great. And everyone can see the comments and stuff. But when you play back the whole video, if you didn't catch it today or all of it today, you play it back on YouTube, you think that people are just talking to themselves, making random comments. You got all kinds of folks on here asking questions, saying hey. And I wish I could capture those comments with all of this. Sometimes those make it a lot more fun, especially when I'm talking to Bobby Sudd and Adam's talking about the 70-30 ratio that we see in the vegan movement, from 70% women, 30% female. You know, I understand why you're playing those odds, and that's okay. And I will probably laugh about that from your brother's live feed, especially next time I see you guys. So we'll give Alex a few minutes here, see if he can come back and join us. It's one of those things where walking around, more men, please. Cherie, I agree. And I think one of my jobs as a man is to spread my message to more men, reach out to more farmers, more hunters, more ranchers, because they are doing the things that I have done in my life. I can't change my past. but I can use that as a tool for other men to show, look, I know what you're talking about. I know what you've experienced. I know what you've done because I've been there and I've done it. And I've also, thanks to my wife, allowed myself to open my eyes and my heart to a different point of view. Becky led us to the Gentle Barn and led us to Dudley, which that's what really sparked her change as well as mine. She had made her choice prior to going to the Gentle Barn. She had made her choice prior to physically being there, but for me, that's what I needed. When I put my hands on Dudley at the Gentle Barn and when it was in Knoxville, that's when it clicked for me. That's when I got it. And from that point on, I knew that I couldn't do anything and didn't want to do anything that would cause harm to animals. I could no longer be a part of that. And Alec was talking about how it's a journey. First, you may start with the food you're eating and the clothing you're putting on, and then it goes into all aspects of your life. And I think that journey is different for everybody. For myself, we went vegetarian right away. We didn't know the horrors that take place in the dairy industry. And, there's a saying, when you know better, do better. As we learned that the dairy industry is fueling the meat industry, we understood the cruelty involved in the dairy industry and how bad dairy and milk in general is for us. It was a no-brainer for Becky and I to make the final step and go vegan. We really appreciate everyone we've met and who has been a part of our journey. So it's been inspirational, some of these folks that we've got to talk to, some of the stories we've heard. I've shared stories from Damian Mander, Philip Wallen. Becky, I don't know. I hope he's coming back. So, it's one of those things. Maybe he dropped his phone. I don't know. I like to share stories that inspire me because I think sharing stuff that is inspirational to yourself, something that gives you motivation, other folks, when they see that, if it connects to them and resonates with them, they're going to share that same story and they want to share that information with their friends. I think it's infectious when you start seeing some of these videos, and I shared one today, and it's funny. So I posted it on Instagram, I posted it on Facebook, and I'd like to discuss AB 487, which was presented in the CA State Assembly yesterday, that is legislate plant-based food in California schools. I'll tell you what, we haven't done this yet. This is Alec's show. If Alex comes back, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not sure who's requesting that, but I will be happy to bring you in to discuss AB 487. Anything we can do to make changes for our kids, make them see that things are important like that, I'll be happy to talk about that.
Hi, I'm Lisa.
Hi, how are you? What's your name?
Hi, I'm Lisa Carlin. I know Alec pretty well. I know Sean Munson and Amy Jean Davis. They're not only my neighbors, but they're my very, very good friends.
That's fantastic. So if you know them, tomorrow you'll know my guest. So being Valentine's Day, I'm having Nikki from Love Always on.
Oh, fabulous. Of course, I know Nikki very well.
Yes.
The reason that I saw that Alec dropped off, so I thought I might request to be on your show and talk about AB 487, because I just got back from Los Angeles City Hall. There was a press conference, and this is a collaborative bill between Social Compassion and Legislation, which is run by Judy Mancuso and Simone Reyes. I volunteer with them. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, where I'm a Food for Life instructor, and also Animal Hope in Legislation, which is Mark Cheen's group. And then there's one more group that I just met today, but there's 4 sponsors of the bill. And now what we're asking for is plant-based, at least one plant-based meal to be available to school children in public schools in California. So I think over the next 6 months, you're going to see a lot of information about this. We'd like you to go to Social Compassion on Instagram and please share the video that we have and watch what goes on. We want to ask everybody to please write their personal assembly person, man or woman, and ask to please support this bill.
I really appreciate you bringing that on. I've talked about this before. If you look at, I was talking about the compassion being ground out of myself and youth as children. I grew up as a hunter. That was something that is just, as you grow up in this society, my dad, by the time you're 8, 9 years old, you're out in the woods with your dad and you're hunting, and next thing you know, you're killing animals on your own. And I think we kind of rip that compassion and empathy that we're born with. We rip that out of these kids. And that includes in schools, if you talk about the food pyramid. The food pyramid says you got to have so much dairy, so much meat and protein, and they show the sources are, beef, pork, and chicken for your protein. Why are we not better educating these kids?
Well, let me stop you right here. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine killed the food pyramid about 8 years ago. Dr. Neil Barnard and the staff at Physicians Committee sued the United States Department of Agriculture in federal court, and they said, where is the peer-reviewed scientific data to support your dietary guidelines for Americans? And let me just digress for a moment. These dietary guidelines are very, very important because they dictate, I got a phone call. They dictate how federal money is spent. So that affects schools, the military, federal-based hospitals, anytime where there's food and the federal government, those guidelines apply. So Physicians Committee was able to successfully sue the United States Department of Agriculture. And they said in federal court, where's this peer-reviewed scientific data to support these dietary guidelines? And guess what? There was none. The judge was very upset with that. The food pyramid went crumbling down, and it's now replaced with a plate. And if you go to myplate.gov, which is the federal website, it's now a plate. It very interestingly resembles the PCRM, Physicians Committee plate. The only difference, the Physicians Committee plate is a plate divided in 4, fruits, vegetables, legumes, and grains. And the myplate.gov is fruits, vegetables, protein, and grains. But what's interesting is when you read on the mygov website, it explains that protein can equally be plant protein or animal-based protein. So that was a big win. And
at least they have that on there.
Right. And when you look at the dairy can be a plant-based milk or a regular dairy milk. So we clearly have more work to do, but it was a huge, huge step. So now we need to take it further, get this bill passed in California, because where goes California, there goes the rest of the world.
If you look at Canada, they removed dairy milk from their suggested food portions. So that's fantastic.
They went further than we did. So we need to catch up with Canada.
We'll get there. I think one of the things that we talked about last night with my guest, Elizabeth Alfano, she talked about how we vote with our dollars. And that's one of the most powerful things that we have as consumers, is that stop buying these products. It's that simple. I know that there are, legislative things that pay for.
Stop shaking. There we go.
I know that they subsidize meat and dairy industries, but those subsidies will get less and less, so these companies cannot survive anymore because we stop buying these products.
Exactly. So, I think all you need to do is go into any regular commercial grocery store like Ralph's or Vons, one of the mainstream stores. And even 5 years ago, all of the refrigerated dairy section was predominantly dairy-based milk. Now more than 50% of the refrigerated products in that section are a variety of plant-based milks. And I think that's really huge. And it shows the industry. And many of these plant-based milks are actually produced by the dairy industry, which I think is fine. That's fine. Let them pivot. Let them just switch away from cow's milk and goat's milk and sheep's milk to plant-based milk.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny, we had a snowstorm. I'm in Ohio. So in Ohio, when it snows, people usually rush to the store. They get bread and milk and water. And so I went to Kroger, which is our biggest chain in this area. And almost all of the dairy-based milk was gone. But there were like 4 racks beautifully still stocked full of plant-based milk. So, we were okay. We survived the storm. So let me, Joe, hang on one second. My wife just said, I need to, yeah. So if I disconnect this, that'll start a whole other scenario. Hey, Joe, can you disconnect and call him real quick? Let's see. I greatly appreciate that information and kind of the sidebar since Alex stepped out for a minute. I really appreciate you bringing that information to us, and it is so important that we get behind legislation, because one of the things I've talked about previously is that the other industries that we're fighting against are absolutely lobbying and writing laws. I know that they're trying to limit what you can and can't call a beef burger or a hamburger, or like Miyoko's. Miyoko's is getting sued with legislative action against them because they're calling it, a dairy creamery, even though, it's a vegan product. So it's so important that we support this and that we get behind these legislators that are encouraged by this. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. Thank you for kind of jumping on and throwing that out there. Definitely wasn't what was intended tonight, but definitely a great addition to this. So thank you very much. And
You're very welcome.
If you want, check out tomorrow. Let's see, I think about 1:30. Nikki's going to be on from Love Always, and since it's Valentine's Day, such an appropriate sanctuary to have on for us.
Yes, I've been there many times. In fact, I go live. I used to be a contributor for Jane Unchained, so I have gone live many, many times.
Okay.
At Love Always. In fact, when their beloved pig was missing.
Oh my gosh, was that not horrible?
That was horrible, and then was returned after we did our post. In fact, later that day is when the pig magically was returned to the sanctuary. That, for people who don't know, there was somebody had gone into the sanctuary, literally stolen a pig. It was not the pig got out. There was no way the pig could have gone out. This little pig had to be physically taken out.
I just don't know what goes through your head to think that that's something that's acceptable or okay or permissible. Thankfully, things worked out that he was returned and he was safe and in good condition. I know Nikki was just heartbroken over that. So I know we followed and shared and waited with bated breath, waiting for a positive result. And thankfully, things worked out well. So thank you very much for reaching out. I appreciate it. Thanks for stepping in.
And I look forward to meeting you in person when you're in California, or I'm in Ohio.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, so my wife tried to call Alec and went straight to voicemail. So maybe tonight's just not the night, but we got to say hi to Alec and we got some information about some important legislation going on in California. So we'll give him just a minute. Does anybody else want to say anything? Well, Becky Jo, you want to get on with me? She's not going to do it. I get Adam on here. Adam, you want to join me? Let me see. Who else do we have? This was not what today was intended for, but I really appreciate everyone paying attention and following along. And technology is one of those things. Thanks, Joe. Technology is great when it works, but sometimes you do have hiccups and do have issues. So I think at this point we're gonna have to chalk this up to Alec being MIA. And he and I will catch up later, I'm sure. I really appreciate him taking the time tonight to come on and kind of share his story, that it was Earthlings that touched him and started his journey and really opened his eyes. So it's funny how certain films bring lots of people together. And it's incredible to see this movement and see it growing every day. If something that someone says on one of these live feeds touches you or resonates with you, please share it. I would appreciate the support. I appreciate you guys sharing my message. And, like I said earlier, I encourage anyone to share their story because, at the end of the day, our stories and our journeys are connected. And someone else is going to connect with your journey and may see something that you do or something that you share that's important to them. So try to be positive, try to spread the light. And as Alec would say, since he's not here, let's try to keep moving that needle forward. So thanks, everybody. Hope you have a good night.